The world as we know it is hanging by a thread. Disasters, whether natural or man-made, are always one step away from turning our comfortable reality into chaos. Imagine a scenario where power grids fail, grocery stores run empty, and even the most basic supplies become scarce. Would you be ready? Most people aren't, and when the collapse hits, it'll be too late to prepare. That's why in today's video, we're breaking down 12 preps that will be priceless after the collapse. These essential items could mean the difference between survival and desperation in an uncertain future. From critical tools to overlooked resources, this list covers what you need to gather now before the world changes forever. Don't leave your fate to chance. Make sure you're prepared, and while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more life-saving tips, preparedness strategies, and everything you need to stay one step ahead. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because when it all goes down, you won't want to miss what could save your life. Now, buckle up and stick around as we reveal these vital preparations you can't afford to ignore. 1. Water filtration systems. When disaster strikes in society as we know it begins to unravel, clean water will no longer be a convenience but a matter of survival. Imagine a world where public water supplies are contaminated, stores are looted, and desperate people resort to drinking from stagnant puddles or polluted rivers. Without a reliable water filtration system, you could be a part of this nightmare. Waterborne illnesses such as cholera, dysentery, and giardia will run rampant, turning even a single sip of tainted water into a death sentence. This isn't paranoia, it's the brutal reality of what happens when the infrastructure fails. Having a reliable water filtration system is not a luxury, it's your lifeline. From lightweight portable filters to advanced countertop purifiers, these systems are your shield against the unseen threats lurking in untreated water. During a collapse, municipal water systems will likely shut down or become unreliable, leaving you to fend for yourself. Rainwater collection, nearby creeks, or even backyard swimming pools might become your best sources of water, but don't be fooled. Even sources that look clean can hide dangerous bacteria, parasites, and chemicals that could bring your survival efforts to an abrupt and agonizing end. The good news? Choosing the right filtration system can save your life. Portable filters, like Life Straws or Sawyer Minis, are lightweight and perfect for bug-out bags, giving you the ability to filter water on the go. Gravity-fed filters, such as the Berkey, are excellent for purifying large amounts of water at home or in a long-term shelter. These systems can remove bacteria, viruses, heavy metals, and other harmful substances, transforming contaminated water into a source of life instead of a source of danger. Don't become a victim of complacency. A reliable water filtration system is one of the few things standing between you and the chaos of a collapsing civilization. Without clean water, your chances of survival aren't just slim, they're non-existent. Prepare now, while you still can. 2. Non-perishable food supplies. When the collapse comes, food will no longer be something you can take for granted. Supermarket shelves will stand barren, stripped clean in days if not hours. Panic and chaos will grip the masses. If you don't prepare now, hunger might become your most unrelenting enemy. That's why stocking up on non-perishable food supplies is not just a precaution, it's a lifeline for survival. Non-perishable foods are your refuge in a world where supply chains grind to a halt. Foods like rice, beans, canned vegetables, and soups can last for years when stored properly. They don't just fill your belly, they provide the essential nutrients to keep you alive and functional in the darkest of days. Don't forget high-energy options like peanut butter, granola bars, and powdered milk, which can sustain your energy when every calorie matters. These aren't luxuries, they're staples that will separate survivors from the desperate and unprepared. But your stash is only as good as its shelf life. Improperly stored food can rot or become infested, leaving you with nothing but regret. Use airtight containers and keep your supplies in a cool, dry location, preferably away from sunlight. Rotate your stock regularly to ensure nothing goes to waste. And don't overlook the value of proper labeling. Knowing what you have and how long it will last could be the difference between organized preparedness and devastating chaos in the heat of crisis. Once society breaks down, trading food may become as critical as money once was. A can of beans or a vacuum-sealed bag of rice might buy you supplies, security, or even protection. But without your own stockpile, you'll have nothing to barter with. Begging won't save you when resources run dry, and trust me, no one will care how desperate you are. Now is the time to act. Waiting guarantees nothing but vulnerability. Stock up. Store wisely. Your future survival depends on what you do today. When the collapse arrives, the prepared will eat, and the unprepared. They'll only starve. 3 medical supplies and first aid kits. When disaster strikes and the medical system collapses, having access to medical supplies and first aid kits will not just be convenient, it will be indispensable for survival. Imagine a world where hospitals are overwhelmed or completely out of commission, pharmacies are ransacked, and basic healthcare becomes an unattainable luxury. Now consider the agony of a family member or yourself falling ill, suffering from an infection, or sustaining an injury without medical assistance. This is the grim reality you must prepare for. Your ability to respond swiftly with the right medical essentials could determine whether someone lives or dies. A well-stocked first aid kit is your first line of defense in such dire times. Bandages, antiseptics, pain relievers, and wound-closing tools like sutures or butterfly strips are absolutely crucial. Without these, even minor injuries could spiral into life-threatening infections. Stock up on gloves, gauze, and medical tape to secure wounds, and don't forget essential over-the-counter medications for burns, allergies, or fevers. If you or your loved ones rely on prescription drugs, ensure you have a surplus, as restocking may be impossible. But having supplies isn't enough, you must know how to use them. Picture facing a gaping wound or a broken limb and not knowing where to start. Basic first aid knowledge can make the difference between stabilizing a situation or watching helplessly as it worsens. Enroll in a first aid course now while it's still an option. Learn CPR, how to treat severe bleeding, and how to handle critical conditions like shock or hypothermia. This knowledge, paired with your medical supplies, transforms you from a bystander into a lifesaver. Don't forget the long-term implications. While immediate injuries are a priority, think about health maintenance during a collapse. Antibiotics, vitamins, and hygiene supplies like soap and sanitizer will help ward off long-term sickness. Prepare for the worst, because after the collapse, you can't count on anyone else to save you. You might be the only one standing between life and death. 4. Alternative energy sources. When the collapse occurs, the power grid as we know it will likely cease to function, plunging society into a chilling darkness. Without electricity, homes will become frigid or unbearably hot, food will decay in powerless refrigerators, and communication channels will fade into silence. This cold reality makes alternative energy sources one of the most invaluable PREPS you can invest in. If you're not prepared to power your home independently, life after the collapse might become an unrelenting nightmare. Solar panels, the shimmering beacons of renewable energy, will be a lifeline in a world without power, but only if you know how to use them. Setting up a solar energy system requires more preparation than just planting panels on your roof. It demands an understanding of inverters, charge controllers, and battery storage. Without these, your panels will be little more than useless slabs during cloudy days or nighttime. And that doesn't even factor in the need to maintain them when supplies grow scarce. Identifying wear and tear, cleaning the panels regularly, and knowing how to troubleshoot when they fail will be critical for survival. Wind turbines may provide another salvation, especially in areas where gusty winds slice through barren skies. But maintaining these mechanical giants is no small task. A single bent blade or malfunctioning motor could render them useless if you don't have spare parts. This delicate technology must be safeguarded relentlessly, or you risk falling back into that dreaded black void. Remember, it's not just about acquiring the tech, it's about fiercely protecting it. Desperate times make desperate people, and your solar setup or wind turbine will be a glaring target for scavengers. Knowledge and vigilance will be your shield. Learn how to camouflage your energy sources or set up defensive perimeters. When the world burns in a collapse, light will become more than a convenience, it will be a symbol of life itself. Without alternative energy sources, you risk plunging into the dark ages both figuratively and literally. Are you prepared? 5. Communication devices. When disaster strikes and society as we know it collapses, staying connected won't just be important, it could mean the difference between life and death. The chaos that follows a catastrophic event often leads to a complete breakdown of traditional communication networks. Your smartphone? Useless without a functioning infrastructure. Internet-based messaging? Forget about it. This is where communication devices tailored for survival can save you and your family. Think of a world where every second of silence could mean danger creeping closer. Radios, particularly hand-cranked or battery-powered models, will become lifelines for receiving critical updates. Emergency broadcasts could alert you to approaching threats, areas of safety, or the availability of essential supplies. A shortwave radio, tuned to the right frequencies, might be your only window to the outside world, revealing whether rescue efforts are underway or if the worst is yet to come. But radios alone may not be enough. What if you need to reach out instead of just listening? This is where satellite phones become an absolute game changer. Unlike cell phones, satellite phones don't rely on local cell towers that could collapse in such scenarios. They tap into orbiting satellites, offering a direct line of communication even when landlines and mobile networks fail. However, their scarcity and high cost make them a priority prep item because, in a collapse, possession of such a tool could grant you unprecedented access to information or assistance. Two-way radios and walkie-talkies should also be part of your arsenal. These devices can facilitate crucial communication within your group or community, especially when coordination and speed are imperative. Imagine trying to warn loved ones about a hostile intruder or informing them of incoming bad weather without a reliable means to do so. The margin for survival could shrink to a harrowing degree without these tools. 6. Self-defense tools. When society collapses and chaos reigns, personal safety will become your top priority. Without a functioning government or law enforcement to maintain order, individuals and families must be prepared to defend themselves against desperate threats. Self-defense tools are not just a precaution, they will be your lifeline in a merciless world where danger lurks everywhere. Non-lethal options like pepper spray, stun guns, and tactical flashlights can provide quick, effective ways to incapacitate an attacker without escalating to lethal force. These tools are easy to carry and use, offering a valuable first line of defense. However, in extreme situations where your family's survival is on the line, you may need to rely on lethal tools like firearms or edged weapons. Firearms such as handguns and shotguns offer range and firepower, but they require proper training for safe handling and accurate use. Bladed tools like survival knives and machetes will serve double duty, not only as weapons but also for practical tasks such as cutting and hunting. Owning self-defense tools is not enough, you must know how to wield them skillfully. Without adequate training, these tools could become liabilities instead of assets. Attend local self-defense classes, practice at the firing range, or participate in simulated emergency scenarios to build muscle memory and confidence for critical moments. Remember, in a life or death situation, hesitation could be catastrophic. Equally important is safety. Improper storage or careless handling of these tools could lead to accidents or theft, leaving you vulnerable at your most desperate hour. Invest in secure storage options, such as a locked safe, and establish clear protocols for accessing these tools during an emergency. Teach your family members how to handle them responsibly and create contingency plans so everyone knows what to do when the unthinkable happens. 7. Clothing and shelter materials. When society as we know it collapses, your survival will heavily depend on how well you're prepared to face the harsh realities of the elements. Clothing and shelter materials are not just important, they are the thin line between life and death. Imagine being caught in freezing temperatures with torn or inadequate clothing while shelterless winds batter your body. Hypothermia can kill in hours, while exposure in scorching climates can lead to dehydration and deadly heatstroke in mere days. Without proper preparation, you're not just uncomfortable, you're doomed. Stockpiling essential clothing for various climates is vital. Think durable boots, insulated coats, thermal underlayers, moisture-wicking shirts, and waterproof outerwear. Don't forget gloves, hats, and scarves for cold weather, or breathable fabrics and wide-brimmed hats for hotter regions. Assume you won't be able to shop for replacements. Every piece you own must last and withstand rugged, unforgiving conditions. High-quality materials and layering gear will be your safeguard against temperature extremes, protecting your body from exposure, cuts, and disease. Equally terrifying is the thought of having no shelter amidst an apocalyptic landscape. Shelter is your first line of defense, not just against weather, but against predators, both animal and human. You must prepare materials to build or repair shelters wherever you find yourself. Heavy-duty tarps, duct tape, nylon rope, nails, and hand tools like hammers and saws can make all the difference. These simple items can transform disaster into a fightable challenge. Plan for scenarios where you might need to repair your home or throw together a makeshift shelter in the wilderness. Fail in this area and you'll discover just how merciless nature can be. Every freezing night, every blistering sun, every torrential downpour will become a battle for your very existence. Clothing and shelter materials might seem mundane now, but after the collapse, they will become priceless treasures, your last defense against an unforgiving world. Prepare them wisely, or be prepared to perish. 8. Gardening and seed storage. When the collapse comes, food will become one of the most critical resources for survival and one of the hardest to secure. Supermarket shelves will be stripped clean in a matter of hours, leaving those unprepared to scavenge or perish. This is where the invaluable skill of gardening and the foresight of proper seed storage could mean the difference between life and death. Growing your own food provides a sustainable means of survival. Fresh produce straight from your own garden ensures you and your family have access to essential nutrients during the chaos that will follow societal breakdown. However, gardening after the collapse isn't just a leisurely hobby, it's a lifeline. Understanding how to cultivate crops in a variety of conditions is vital. Mastering techniques like companion planting, crop rotation, and soil enrichment could prevent critical mistakes that might leave you with nothing to harvest. Even more chilling is the realization that without seeds, none of this is possible. Seeds are currency in a world where food is scarce. Storing seeds properly is a science you cannot afford to overlook. Without proper storage, seeds rot, lose their viability, and become worthless. Protect them as if your future depends on it, because it does. Use moisture-proof containers, vacuum sealing methods, and keep them in a cool, dark place to extend their potential lifespan. Heirloom seeds are your best bet, as they can be harvested again for future planting, unlike genetically modified hybrids that grow once and die. Imagine the nightmare of watching your loved ones grow weaker because your garden failed or your seeds were unusable. Don't leave the success of your future crops to chance. Right now, while the world still turns, you must prepare, learn, and stockpile. Becoming a skilled gardener and a meticulous seed curator is not just smart, it's survival insurance. When collapse strikes, those who prepared will have food. Those who didn't? They'll have empty stomachs and an unforgiving future. The choice is yours. 9 bartering items. When the collapse comes, money as we know it will become worthless. Paper bills and electronic currency will no longer hold value in a world where survival takes precedence over everything. Bartering, however, will rise again as the primary form of trade, and having the right items to barter could mean the difference between life and death, or at least surviving comfortably or helplessly. Make no mistake, a lack of foresight in preparing barter-worthy items could leave you and your loved ones at the mercy of scavengers and desperate individuals. First, focus on acquiring items that are necessities in desperate times, things people simply cannot live without. Food will always top the list, but certain non-perishable, compact, and high-value items such as rice, salt, sugar, or powdered milk will be worth their weight in gold in a collapsed economy. Water purification tablets and small filtration systems will also be highly sought after when potable water becomes scarce. Next, remember the importance of medical supplies. Antibiotics, painkillers, bandages, and antiseptics will become critical resources, even more valuable than currency once pharmacies are picked clean. Hygiene products like soap, toothpaste, and feminine hygiene items will also skyrocket in value, especially as the remaining supplies dwindle and disease spreads. Don't overlook tools and equipment essential for everyday survival, like knives, fire-starting tools, and batteries. Even seemingly minor items like sewing needles and thread, fishing gear, or duct tape could become hot commodities. Liquor and cigarettes, while not vital for survival, will also retain immense trading power due to their addictive nature and use as stress relievers in dire circumstances. Lastly, understand the art of bartering itself. Learn to barter strategically. Always start by asking for more than you need, and keep an eye on the desperation levels of others. Stay guarded. Revealing too much about the supplies you have could make you a target for theft or worse. The collapse won't just bring chaos, it'll bring out the primal instincts in everyone. Your ability to barter sensibly could be the only thing keeping you alive in the post-collapse world. 10 tools and repair kits. When the world plunges into chaos after a collapse, your survival will rely heavily on the items you have at hand, and tools and repair kits will be your lifeline. Imagine a world where you can't run to the hardware store or call a professional to fix a broken door, patch up a vehicle, or even repair critical water filtration systems. This is the grim reality you must prepare for, and without the right tools, you'll be helpless against the relentless deterioration of your environment. Owning a set of essential tools such as screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers, hammers, and saws is non-negotiable. These tools will not only allow you to maintain your shelter but also help you scavenge and repurpose abandoned materials into something useful. Your hands and ingenuity will become your greatest survival assets, but without tools, even the most creative solutions will fail you. A comprehensive repair kit, complete with duct tape, fasteners, zip ties, sealants, and adhesives, must become a constant companion in your survival preparations. Beyond the tools themselves, you need to ensure you possess the skills to use them. A lifeless scrap of metal is meaningless if you don't know how to turn it into a makeshift weapon or fix a leaking pipe. Now is the time to learn basic mechanical repairs, woodwork, and even electrical troubleshooting. When the collapse happens, machines will break, shelters will crumble, and your gear will inevitably wear down. The difference between life and death may come down to whether you can wield a wrench or mend a snapped rope. Don't underestimate the preparedness of basic repair skills. This is not a luxury but a survival necessity. Post-collapse, minor inconveniences like a leaky roof or a broken lock could snowball into catastrophic vulnerabilities. The unprepared will be left exposed to the elements or potential intruders, but those with tools and the knowledge to use them will stand a fighting chance in an unforgiving world. Ensure your arsenal is ready or be prepared to pay the ultimate price. 12 books and educational materials. When the world as we know it crumbles, there will be no internet, no online tutorials, and no instant access to knowledge. The survival of you and your community may very well depend on what you know and what you've wisely chosen to preserve in written form. Books and educational materials will become priceless commodities in a post-collapse world where ignorance can quickly lead to death. The importance of knowledge and skills cannot be overstated. When resources are scarce, knowing how to purify water, grow food, build shelters, and administer basic first aid will be survival essentials. What happens when a simple wound becomes infected, or a mechanical failure in your generator leaves your entire group in darkness? These aren't hypothetical scenarios, they are certainties in a society without functioning infrastructure. Having comprehensive reference books on survival medicine, gardening, mechanical repair, and basic engineering will be the difference between thriving and struggling to stay alive. However, it doesn't stop there. Beyond practical survival skills, educational resources on long-term sustainability, philosophy, and history will help rebuild the framework of a shattered civilization. Imagine future generations devoid of knowledge about the past, repeating catastrophic mistakes because valuable information was lost. Recommended resources like guides on off-grid living, permaculture farming, and scavenging techniques should be in your collection now, because once the collapse happens, it will be too late. Also, don't underestimate the value of books for maintaining morale. When isolation sets in and anxiety rises, stories, novels, and poetry could provide some much-needed mental escape for yourself and others. A well-read group will be more adaptable, resourceful, and capable of enduring challenges over the long haul.